Good evening. It is 6:30, but we are waiting for a few minutes to enable others to join in because of a sudden lightning and thunderstorm. So just bear with us, please. Good evening and welcome to Calcutta Club's virtual session. Today is World Environment Day. This evening, we present Black, White and Amber, Tiger Tales from Bandhavgarh by our fellow member and a dear friend, Shondip Chaudhuri. Shondip, or Sandy as he is fondly called, brings 30 years experience in marketing and communications. An alumnus from Loyola Madras, he has essentially been an advertising professional, having been with agencies such as FCB Ulka, McCann Erickson, Clarion, and Low Lintas in Kolkata, Chennai, and Dhaka. He has spent some years with HMV Saregama as well. Shondip has over the years mentored many young minds in advertising through his guardianship of Clarion College of Communications. Currently, he is the president of Calcutta Media Institute. His other passion, tigers. A member of World Wildlife Fund and various tiger trusts, he is a regular at seminars on tiger conservation. His photographs have been part of WWF exhibitions. He has also written on tigers for Sanctuary Asia. Shondip will be happy to take questions from you after our evening safari. So keep them coming into the chat box. The session will be approximately for 45 minutes. Let us now follow him into the jungles of Bandhavgarh. Over to you, Sandy.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shoini, for flattering introduction. And good evening to all members of the club and a very happy Environment Day. And thank you all for being here in a rather stormy Calcutta evening, Saturday evening. Thank you all. It's nice to see that, tigers do get an audience because they are critically important as far as the environment is concerned. They're on top of the food chain. So their survival is of great importance. As a species, will it get extinct? Possibly no, because today, the sad part of it today is that there are more tigers in zoos across the world than there are in the wild. And I think our efforts to keep them in the wild must be very, very important. And India is critically important because we hold approximately 70% of the world's tiger population. So if the tiger survives in the wild in India, it will survive worldwide. Before I begin, it's really an honor to be speaking at the club in which I really grew up. So while I've spoken at other clubs, I've never spoken at my own club. So thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for giving me this honor, and most importantly, thank you, Adip, for this opportunity. Today, we're going to talk about one of the world's largest predators. I mean, other than the polar bear, it's possibly the single largest predator that exists, land predator that exists on Earth. It's very cunning. It knows what to do, and it relies on a lot of skills to actually survive, including trying to second guess man. And I think that really is the biggest challenge as far as tigers are concerned. We humans are its biggest enemies, and possibly also its biggest friends, as we will go on to see in due course. Just before I start, I'm no tiger expert really. I mean, I haven't done too much of studies, or I'm not qualified enough to comment on tiger issues across the country. I am out and out a tiger lover. I just love the animals. I read voraciously on it. Possibly I've read every publication that has been made on the tiger. And Google sends me updates every morning on the situation of the tigers right across the country, or tiger articles that have appeared across the world. And since the Google search word is tiger, I do get some amount of Tiger Shroff and Tiger Woods as well coming in. Don't mind the latter because I'm a great follower of Tiger Woods, and I think he's a great sportsman. Having said that, let's get on with what I have to share with you today. Welcome really to Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve. This is a tiger reserve that I have been visiting now more or less continuously since 2005. We visit Bandhavgarh every year. We haven't been able to do so over the last 2 years. So about the situation of the actual ground situation in Bandhavgarh is I haven't been able to witness firsthand, but thanks to social media and other digital platforms, the information flow is quite good. So we do get to know. And today's tigers are tracked, not necessarily with radio collars. I mean, the mahouts who are there, I mean, they track them. We have a very efficient forest system today going in place. They do lack some of they do lack some of equipment, especially when they come up against poachers who have automatic rifles. But we have forest guards who are still on cycles and use standard axes as their equipment. I mean, so it's important that we start beefing this particular thing up. But the good news is poaching is on the decrease. We've been able to protect tigers, and if you really look at our tiger reserves, our tiger numbers are holding. We are now today talking about a growth rate of about 6% on a year-to-year basis of the tiger population. So that's good. But however, there are other issues. Tigers are territorial animals. They require territory. There is territory shrinkage, which is happening in Tigerland at about 7% on a year-to-year basis. So if we have a territorial animal with shrinking tiger base or shrinking tiger areas in which they can survive, it's going to be a problem. The other problem that we are facing is there is overpopulation and possibly some of the good tiger reserves in the country, and there is underpopulation. So NTCA has begun this whole operation of really looking after and translocating tigers right across the country. When we come to Bandhavgarh, it is prime tiger territory, and they are really the royal jungles of Rewa. It belonged to the Maharaja of Rewa. It was the Rewa Maharaja's hunting grounds in the good old days of Maharajas, and a little after post-independent India. It is extremely fertile tiger country because the tiger, remember, relies on ambush to actually bring down its prey. It doesn't have the speed that deer has, for example. So it can't compete with them on speed. So it relies heavily on ambush to actually bring down its prey. And Bandhavgarh is absolutely prime tiger territory because there is huge areas where the tiger can actually set up an ambush to get its meal. I don't know how many of you will be able to actually see this, but in this picture that you're currently seeing, there is a tiger. I would really love to know if any one of you could spot the tiger. We'll take the question, at the end of the session and see if, any one of you have been able, but there is a tiger in this picture and it's hidden, so you'll have to really look for it. So with that in mind, let's get on to our stories of today. First, let me set the tone by, giving you what Bandhavgarh is all about. Bandhavgarh became a national park in 1968. That's when the Maharaja of Rewa handed over his hunting grounds to the government of India, and it instantly became one of the first national parks of the country. That's way back in 1968. It became a tiger reserve in 1993. And compared to, say, Kana, Corbett, Kaziranga, or even our Sundarbans, this tiger territory or this tiger reserve is quite small. And hence, it has a very high density of tigers. So the possibility of seeing tigers is rather high. And, I could possibly, with some amount of guarantee you, if you spend about 5 nights, 6 days at Bandhavgarh, the chances are that you're going to see a tiger out there. They come out very often. They are no longer tourist shy. I mean, most mothers actually bring up their cubs in front of a lot of tourists. So from a very young age, these cubs get used to seeing people on vehicles. Now, don't get off the vehicle because, first of all, you're not supposed to do so. And second of all, that actually does rattle tigers a little bit. If you're in a vehicle, they have no problems. It would come very close to you. So as we speak, for example, Bandhavgarh has 41 cubs between the ages of 3 months to 1 year. So that's very healthy because, mothers are producing cubs. The cubs are there. Most of the cubs are surviving. But it brings me to the next question. Bandhavgarh is a small national park. It needs corridors. Previously, in the olden days, there were corridors of forests, forest land, which used to connect Kana to Bandhavgarh and, Pench and Panna. They were actually all connected through corridors. Now, these corridors are quickly disappearing. And that's creating a genetic pool disadvantage as far as tigers are concerned. And there's a lot of inbreeding going on. I'll illustrate this with an example as we go along. The first white tiger was spotted here way back in 1915. Yes, the first white tiger was spotted in the wild. And Mohan, another white tiger, was captured in 1951. Mohan is possibly responsible for the white tiger gene pool that exists in the world today. In fact, one of, I think, cubs from his first litter or second litter was sent to Calcutta Zoo. That's where Calcutta Zoo began its breeding program. And Calcutta Zoo is also quite responsible for the gene pool, creation of the gene pool of the white tigers. So the white tiger is there. Have we seen a white tiger recently in Bandhavgarh? My answer is no. But one, I believe, has been spotted in the Nilgiri forests about 2 years ago. So it's not that. It's just actually, colorization difference. It's just that, the orange coat that we see or the amber coat that we see turns white. So there is a pigmentation really issue. 2 iconic tigers actually put India on the tiger map. I'll just talk briefly about them because the tigers that we see today have really come from these 2. They are really iconic. As I said, they put India on the tiger map. India on the world wildlife tourism map with what we were. And, it was their daughters, their grandsons that we first saw. I didn't see these 2 iconic tigers. I just read about them, seen most of the documentaries and visuals that are there of them, but I haven't been able to see them. It was their daughters and granddaughters and grandsons, if I could put it, that we first saw in 2005 and every year ever since, all the way up to 2019. Last year and this year, despite efforts, we just couldn't make it to Bandhavgarh. If you ask me, yes, currently Bandhavgarh, as I speak, is open. It opened on the 1st of June again and will shut on the 30th of June. It does affect the economy of that place. Today, Tana, which is the town where Bandhavgarh really is dependent on tiger tourism. Everybody there is dependent on tiger tourism. So it does affect the economy of that particular place. And one of the ways to really contribute, even if you're not doing so in any other way, is to just visit these places. If you just visit these places, you will actually be contributing to keeping the tigers safe. Okay, Nat Geo really put tigers and Bandhavgarh into the World Wildlife Tourism map. India needs to really exploit this particular opportunity, because if you really look at it, India with its diverse wildlife has huge potential of actually challenging Africa in wildlife tourism. We are still way below as far as Africa is concerned in wildlife tourism, and some of our infrastructure also needs to be put in place. The wildlife infrastructure or wildlife tourism infrastructure in Africa is far better than what it is in India. But yes, we are fast improving. I remember going into Tala in 2005, and now when I go into Tala, I mean, there is a huge difference. There is, Tala has now got internet cafes, most of the hotels there or resorts there have Wi-Fi. I mean, things which we didn't even imagine, I mean, say in 2010 or even 2012 when we were there. But today it's not really a problem. So India really needs to exploit that. And remember, world wildlife tourism, Africa is becoming saturated. You know, people so India needs to really build on this, and we can actually start attracting a lot more tourists just by the sheer, I mean, if we take our big five, it's, you know, the elephant, the rhino, the tiger, the leopard, and our Indian bison, the boar, we can actually, I mean, there is huge potential. You know, take a place like Kaziranga, for example, it has everything. I mean, it has the tiger, it has the elephant, it has the rhino. It doesn't have boar, but it has the wild buffaloes. It has leopards. So, you know, we need to really build on this. I mean, for example, I think, you know, closer to home, when I look at Sundarbans, now we really need to make it a tourism hotspot, and the opportunities are there. We need to just step out and go and create it. This is a family tree of the tigers of Bandhavgarh, which a friend of mine, Vivek Sharma, has been developing over the years, and I've been helping him with this particular project. He runs a company called Tiger Expeditions. You can check out the website. You'll see a little profile of me as well out there. And I help him do this. And over the years, we've developed this family tree of tigers in Bandhavgarh. It was used by Stephen Mills in his now famous book called Tigers. So it's been printed. I mean, the first part of it has been printed of it. I'm just showing you a section of the family tree, because you know, there is a huge another section which follows this one, because today we are talking about nearly about 100 of tigers in Bandhavgarh. I mean, and you know, we need to keep tracking them. For those of you who want to go to Bandhavgarh, there is a lovely booklet which will give you the names and the stripe patterns. Each tiger has its own unique stripe pattern. It's like our fingerprints. Tigers can be identified with their stripe patterns. I personally believe that even their facial appearances are different. I mean, each tiger to me actually looks different. So it's important that you know these tigers, and Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve, along with an NGO there, has actually brought out a book, so that once you're into the park, you can actually identify the tigers by looking at their stripe patterns and their facial recognition. What we will talk about today is about two tigers really, or two tigresses really. Sita and Charger, and Sita's last litter had She gave birth to 3 cubs. The male cub died when he was quite young. So she was left bringing up 2 daughters, the Chakradhara female and the Banbai female. Now, these 2 females are possibly responsible for the gene pool that currently exists in Bandhavgarh National Park. I will not talk about them, and we had the opportunity of seeing both these tigresses in close quarters. They were terrific mothers. Chakradhara, I think, raised a litter of 6. I mean, she gave birth 6 times and she had 6 litters across the board. Similarly with Banbai. They were great mothers, and tiger mothers are possibly one of the fiercest mothers in the animal kingdom. Don't ever try going near a tigress's cubs. Tigresses are known to kill males which are larger than them in defense of their cubs. So they are fierce mothers, and they really take care of their children very well. I mean, it's amazing. This evening, I'll talk to you about 2 incidents which has given us some amount of insights into tiger behavior. About 2 tigresses, both stemmed from or are daughters of the Chakradhara female. And we'll talk about the Sidbaba tigress and the Jurjura tigress. So both of them really granddaughters to Sita and Charger. And in both cases, possibly now responsible for the lineage that exists in Bandhavgarh National Park. This is an ongoing effort. It keeps improving as we go about in time. Some of the dates are really approximation because, unlike us, we can't actually pinpoint the date when the cubs were born because, mahouts go out and see them. And then we realize that the tigress has given birth. We do figure out if she is pregnant because the tiger's belly actually sags about 2 to 3 weeks before she actually gives birth. Until then, you really can't make out too much on whether the tigress, yes, there is a swelling, but it's these last 2 or 3 weeks that you really get to know that a tigress is on her way to giving birth, and she gives birth in very secluded places. I mean, it's not a very open secret. And they don't like because the cubs are very vulnerable in the first 3 months of their lives. They're extremely vulnerable. So, the mother takes great care to actually see to it that they are there. There's one particular tiger who, okay, just before I go, just a few images. None of them are mine. They're all Vivek's images. This is Charger. Charger on full throttle, and this is Sita with it, litters. And we'll talk about again Chakradhara's cubs. 2 cubs from Chakradhara. So this is a picture of them with their mother a little before Sita actually just passed away. And this is the great He-Man of Bandhavgarh. Okay, the big boy who really established Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve as a premier tiger destination was called B2, Awesome Tiger. I mean, he had the confidence of, he was just, what should I say, awesome. I think is the best word to put him at, because he didn't care too much about tourist vehicles. He didn't care too much. I remember he used to just walk up to vehicles. Drivers would part ways, and people would just walk across the road. That was the kind of arrogance that he showed. He was never, what should I say? He didn't follow his grandfather because he was not, he was born to Mohini. Mohini was a cub from Sita, from Charger. So, Sita and Charger were really his grandparents. So B2 had the kind of dominance that no tiger has shown ever since. Even at his old age, he was able to hold on to, I think, parts of his territory. He did really get squeezed during the latter part of his reign. But between 97 to about 2007, 8, B2 was king as far as Bandhavgarh was concerned, and he would go anywhere around the park. And tiger nations have valued him at about 7 million at the time of his death. This calculation is actually, the royal, being not royalties, but the fees that various people paid to actually film him, people coming into the park to actually see him. There's only one other tiger in the country which has a greater valuation, and that's Machli from Machli is valued at about 8 million from Ranthambore. So he actually was responsible for putting Bandhavgarh onto the tiger map of the country, and it's important. From magazine covers to documentaries, he was a real superstar. I mean, he went right ahead and did what he wanted. And like most tigers, he did have a harem of about 3 tigresses. The Chakradhara tigress, the Vanvai tigress, and the Sid Baba tigress. We will talk about Sid Baba as we go along. The Chakradhara tigress and the Vanvai tigresses were Sita's daughters. And the Sid Baba tigress was actually the daughter of B2 and Chakradhara. I was talking to you about the gene pool shrinking. So here we are seeing a situation of where, the father is actually mating with the daughter. So there is a gene pool restriction that happens. And, unless we let these corridors operate, this is going to be a problem for everyone in tiger conservation going forward. Sid Baba was born in 2011 and lived all the way up to 2012. As I said, she was the daughter to B2 and Chakradhara. And she took a part of her mother's territory, the Sid Baba area, and this is very near the Tala Gate. Tala is one of the core sites or core gates as far as Bandhavgarh is concerned. And she took up the area as you entered the park. So, we could frequently see see her while we were driving into the park, or we were driving out of the park. And she was a beautiful tigress. I mean, I would rate her as one of the most beautiful tigresses that I have ever seen. I mean, or seen through my lenses, and she was really beautiful. I mean, there is one particular tigress now called Dottie at Bandhavgarh, who's equally beautiful, and she's growing. I mean, so she's there. Just heard that. I look forward to seeing them sometime or the other, but given the pandemic, and she, as I said, own, but she made a number of forays. And someone's scribbling something. I didn't get that. Anyway, she didn't get, I mean, into anyone's ways. She, I mean, just loved doing what she wanted to do. And she led a very harmonious life all the way up to about 2010. When there was some amount of disturbance that really came into her life. In December 2005, there's someone scribbling away, and I can't get that off. Would one of the co-hosts please take a look at it?
Yeah, we are working on it.
Okay, thanks. In December 2005, she gave birth to her first cubs. We don't name the cubs. The Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve doesn't really name the cubs as they're born, because it only gets named once it's established itself a particular territory. We refer to them through numbers. SBM would be Sid Baba male 1 and Sid Baba female 1. This is the male cub and this is the female cub. And as I said, was fathered by B2. So it was fathered by her own father. So these two cubs were very boisterous. You could see them as we drove in and we drove out of the park, and they would really entertain us. So they were really big cubs with brain. And cubs are very playful, especially once between the ages of 6 months to 1 year, 1.5 years, about the time when they start leaving their mother. They're very playful. So, I mean, if there are cubs in the region, expect to get entertained because they just run around, jump around, stalk each other, make mock charges, and they just keep going and really entertaining you. Oops, I'm having a problem navigating this. Okay, SBM1, that's Swampy, he was called at that point of time. We just given him a name. Was sent to the Bhopal Zoo because he brought down a woman in the park. The woman had actually got into the national park to collect firewood. And you're legally not supposed to do that. You're not allowed to get into the national parks and collect firewood. That's not on. And Swampy brought her down. Didn't eat her, but brought her down. That was enough reason for the Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve authorities to decide to send Swampy to Bhopal Zoo. I don't know if it is justice, but it's more like, I enter someone's house to steal something and I get hit in the process and the other person goes to jail. And I, who's actually committing the crime, get away scot-free. So, tigers don't really sometimes get the justice they deserve. Having said that, Swampy is still in Bhopal Zoo. I believe he's alive. I've never gone to see him because I don't really like visiting zoos. I don't like seeing too many animals caged. It is a little bit of an issue. In 2009, Sid Baba gave birth to her second litter, SBM2, and again, a boy and a girl. This time was fathered by young Bamera. Bamera was B2's son of Chakradhara, and he was starting to dominate this particular area and was moving B2 and was pushing B2 out of his territory. However, being a young, dominant male, Bamera, who himself was quite a replica of his father, took charge. And, it's important that tiger fathers are there. A lot of people believe that, the fathers play actually no role in bringing up the kids. Actually, the tiger father plays a very important role. Unless he gives the security to the mother and the cubs, there is a sense of, tigresses do get a little worried if they don't see their males around for a long period of time. They do get restless, and especially if there are transient males around the place, it makes life difficult. To protect them from other males, the resident male is very important in a tiger family's life. So it's important that a dominant male is around when a family is growing up, because it's critical. And we've seen cases across most national parks, when something has happened to the dominant male, young cubs are killed by males who are coming in to that particular territory. Uh, in the 2010 season, these two cubs, like the previous litter, were really the darlings of Bandhavgarh, and they really entertained a lot of tourists. And social media was then rife with their pictures. However, tragedy was to follow in the years to come, and barely 2 years later, they were orphaned in March 2011. In 2010, there was a tigress called Kankati. Kankati, if you really look at the family tree of the Bandhavgarh tigers, would actually be Sid Baba's niece. Their mothers were siblings, so in typical human parlances, they would have been first cousins. She came in to this particular territory and first chased or moved the resident female there, the Chakradhara female, and Sid Baba's mother out of her territory. And once having done that successfully, and once having driven Chakradhara to the buffer area, Kankati began making her move and eyeing Sid Baba's territory, because Sid Baba has beautiful territory. They're lovely streams which flow through it. It's rocky and it's beautiful. It has a lot of green. It has a large meadow. There are lots of prey in that particular territory. So it is prime territory, and any tigress would really like to make that a resident territory. So Kankati started moving in. While this was happening, Sid Baba also suffered a minor injury. Not a minor injury, it's an injury that, I think ultimately affected her and cost her life. Because her territory was mountainous, if I could put it, with lots of hills and hillocks and caves in this particular area of Bandhavgarh. She was hunting one day and she jumped from one of the rocks and injured her leg. And she was limping for quite a period of time. And she still managed to hunt with that limp. I think her left foreleg was the one that was injured. So she did have a little bit of a handicap. However, when Kankati first made her move, she was beaten back, and not only beaten back, during that particular battle, and tiger battles for territories could be bloody, she lost an eye. However, she was not to give up. Thanks to the scribbling, I'm facing a problem. In March 2011, Kankati kills Sid Baba. And in this territorial battle, Sid Baba died. And then the next morning, when she was found, not only was she dead, but her body had been eaten by the killer, and the killer was seen resting near the body. It's only when the park elephants moved her out of the area that they were able to examine the body and figure out that it was Sid Baba. Cannibalism is very rare amongst tigers. Until this particular moment, there was only one recorded incident at Kanha where such a thing happened. However, as I said, a recorded event. We don't know whether it has happened. We've not seen it, but we've not had too much. Yes, sometimes territorial battles can be very bloody. It can severely injure a tiger or a tigress. But cannibalism is something that we don't come across very easily. And as I said, the second case after Kanha, which we recorded, and then the Kanha case was also not very conclusive because they didn't see the killing tiger actually with the carcass. The carcass was found eaten, but remember, Kanha has a lot of leopards. It has a large population of the wild dog. So, anyone could have come and, partaken of a dead carcass. So we are not very sure on the Kana case, but in this particular case, it was very evident because the park elephants found Kankati near Haran's carcass. What followed was even more spectacular. Remember, she had two cubs. They were roughly about a year and a half, a year, 10, 11 months old at that point of time. They were not actually ready to take care of themselves as yet, but so big enough to actually realize what was happening. And remember, these cubs went through a little bit of trauma. They saw their mother fight to death. And not only that, they saw their mother actually being eaten. So they were a little bit of traumatic situation for them. They retreated into the buffer areas of the park and lived there for about 2 years, building their strengths. They used to make frequent forays into their mother's territory, now Kankati's territory. In fact, Shardul, the boy, or SM2, actually didn't make life very easy for Kankati. Remember, he was a male tiger and naturally and by the time he was 3 years old, he was definitely much larger than Kankati, who was 2. And he didn't make life at all easy for Kankati, and in fact killed the first 2 cubs Kankati produced. However, he was waiting for revenge, and rumor really has it that in August 2014, he killed Kankati and possibly avenged his mother's death. 2 lessons that we've learned really from this particular story at Bandhavgarh. The first really is the cannibalism story, that tigers can be and can have cannibalistic tendencies. Very rare, not seen too much, but definitely there. I mean, it's possible. Initially, lots of people thought that it was not possible. Tigers don't eat tigers, but yes, it's possible. And the second, and I think the more important one, is there is a huge social bonding amongst tigers, which we don't yet complexities in that particular bonding. We as humans we don't yet know too much about. In fact, there have been recorded instances in other national parks in the country where a mother has actually fed a kill to 2 sets of cubs, the current set of cubs and her previous set of cubs. So there was something like 11 tigers in and around the carcass at that particular point of time. So there is social bonding which does exist, and it's not that, we keep saying tigers lead a solitary life and this, that, and the other. But there is. Shardul did take revenge for his mother's death, and I always remembered it. But as I said, he didn't really allow Kankati to settle in this particular territory and killed the first set of cubs and then got rid of, and when he was ready, got rid of the mother itself. Okay. Let me now take you across to the other end of the park where there was another male who dominated this particular area called Boka, or Bonka. He was fathered by B3. B3 was B2's sibling, B2's brother. I mean, they were B1, B2, and B3, the 3 cubs Mohini delivered. And all 3 of them really grew up to be very strong tigers. And B3 ruled, but was unfortunately electrocuted by one of the main fences on the park. So we lost him, and Bonka, his son, took over that particular territory and ruled this particular area of the park. He was, if you were to ask me, he was a larger tiger than, B2, but B2 kept him at bay. However, towards the end of B2's reign, we did see Bonka deep into B2 territory. So he was B2 was really being pushed at that point. At one point, at one end, he was being pushed by his son, Bamera, and at the other end, he was being pushed by Bonka. So he was, but he was, Banka was the king of the Rajbera meadows, and equally dominant with B2. They fought a lot of battles, mostly inconclusive, so each remained within his territory. Like B2, he too had his harem, the Jodhpura tigress and the Sukhipatia tigress and the Mahaman tigress. The Jodhpura tigress and the Mahaman tigress were sisters to Siddhbaba. They were siblings. All three of them actually went out and established reasonably good territories for themselves. It shows how good a mother.
Shondeep, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Hello, Shondeep, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, just 1 sec. We've discovered how to erase that. Can we just allow Romit to help you once? Stay
Yeah.
on this slide, no problem. Just
There
stay
are two
on this
options.
slide.
One is you can stop share and reshare it once more,
Okay.
or from the top part that you have, you can
Right.
just go to more. In that, you have an option of disabling annotations from participants. Easiest would be stop share and reshare it once more. I think it will be gone.
Enable annotation from the.
Yeah, you can just stop share.
Or the.
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, just bear with us. We're just trying to fix the technical issue.
Oh, thank you so much. That's nice. Thank you so much. As I was saying, these two tigresses from Chatradana, they traveled, out of their home area of the Kala range and went into the Makti range, established their territories, two great mothers, also in their own right. And Sukhipatia was actually Bonka's sibling. So Sukhipatia was Bonka's sister. We saw father meeting with daughter there. We are seeing brother and sister meeting up here. So there are these genetic issues, which I think, somewhere down the line we will need to address and address very carefully because it does have medical related problems. Okay, quickly into the story here. I'll talk to you about the Jodhpura tigress. Magnificent tigress. We have some lovely videos of her. There was one whole afternoon safari she gave us where she walked ahead of our vehicle and spent really the whole evening with us. I could put it that way. Great tigress, great mother again. 3 sets, I think 3 to 4 sets of cubs. When she finally died, and she actually met quite a tragic death. She was really the queen of the Raj. If Bonka was the king of the Rajbera meadows, she was really the queen of the Rajbera meadows. 3 sets of cubs, and all with Bonka. And she was mother to the now famous Rajbera female, who featured in David Attenborough's Dynasty series on BBC. You can see this. It's available on Sony Live under BBC Earth. Name of the series is called Dynasty, and do take a look at it. You get a lot of insights into life of tigers. It's a lovely series. There are some lovely documentaries which are available. There is another one again anchored by David Attenborough, called Spy in the Jungle. It's from Penn, I think, and it takes you through the life cycle of a tigress in bringing her cubs. Badi Mata is the heroine in that particular series, and how she brought up her 4 cubs, and beautifully done. And they used lock cams and trunk cams. They mounted cameras on elephants' trunks and tusks. So it's very nicely captured, and it gave us a lot of insights into tiger life. On the night of the 18th, Jyothira was dead, killed by humans who were actually meant to be protecting her. Was killed by a forest department vehicle. This vehicle was in the park in the evening when you're not supposed to be in the park. The parks usually close at around 6:30 in summer. You are not supposed to be in the park at night. No vehicle is allowed. Government vehicles, yes, some of the patrolling vehicles are allowed, but other than that, no other vehicle is allowed. What I am told, because I can't be sure on this, because like many things in India, this has been brushed underneath the carpet. And despite the case going to CBI, 11 years on, no one has yet been booked. It is rumored that the driver of that particular vehicle was the son of a very powerful minister in the Shivraj Chauhan cabinet. And hence, a lot of the things were actually hushed up. But postmortem reports quite clearly said that this was not on and was hit by a blunt object, and that was a head-on collision with a tigress. And remember, the animals inside the park are not used to seeing vehicles after a period of time, and especially at night. And here was a mother with three at that point of time, 3 young cubs, actually sitting on the road with the cubs. And suddenly there is the speeding vehicle which comes. So she automatically charged in protection of her cubs. And there was more or less a head-on collision as far as the tiger and the cub was concerned. Well, as I said, I mean, no conclusive proof of what I'm telling you all about, but this is what most of the guides and drivers of Bandhavgarh, people in the park, have essentially told me. But no formal indictment as far as the case is concerned, and it's still a live CBI case as we speak. As I said, she had 3 6-month-old cubs, 2 males and a female. One of the males died within 2 or 3 days of her mother because the cubs were terrified and they had gone and hidden in the caves where their mother used to actually keep them. And it took the forest officials some time to actually find them. And I think it was 3 days, if I'm not mistaken. And after 3 days, when they were found, one of the male cubs were dead. So the forest officials took the 2 cubs under their wings, put up an enclosure in Bandhavgarh and started raising them so that. The good news is on the 10th of June, 2014, the female cub was translocated to Satpura Tiger Reserve. She is now the queen there, and from what I'm given to understand, has now given birth to her 3rd litter there. So man did help save this particular cub. And, on one hand, we were responsible for her mother's death, but yet we were successful in raising her up and putting her back into the wild. What are the lessons we can learn from Jyothira's stories? The first lesson and most important lesson is we need to observe park protocol. And man still seems to be the major enemy of the tiger. It's us humans who do them more harm than any other creature on this particular planet. And yet, having said that, it's the same humankind that can actually look after and put back cubs into the wild. And this was not the first instance that something like this has happened. Subsequently, it has happened that Kankati Jr., she had 3 cubs. They have been raised in a secluded area and now released back into the wild. And last but not the least is this whole translocation exercise. There are parts in the country where, the tiger populations are not very high. We are seeing the translocation success that's happening between Ranthambore and Sariska. Sariska is getting back its tigers. Similarly, Satpura had gone down to 7 tigers, and with this translocation, things started happening. But remember, translocations need to be done with great amount of homework. Because while there are successes as far as translocations are concerned, there are failures as well. We saw a beautiful Bandhavgarh tigress, moved to Satkosia in Orissa, and Mahavir was moved from Kana to Satkosia. Mahavir died. Sundari, who was a tigress from Bandhavgarh, was accused of killing 2 humans, and ultimately the chief minister of Madhya Pradesh had to write to the chief minister of Orissa, and Sundari was brought back to MP. So, and the failure of Satkosia really is that homework hadn't been done properly, and we need to do the homework well. They need to have prey available, they need to have space available for them to go ahead and do this translocation. That's it, I think. Thank you very much for giving me a very patient hearing.
Thank you, Shondeep. That
I'll
was
take
entirely.
questions.
Yeah. I'll just take the questions now. I think we are so used to facing cyclones every year, and we know how it is named. We have an interesting question from one of our members, Tarun Sarkar. Who names the tigers?
Well, the park officials name the tiger, and usually the name of the tiger is either a feature on their face or body, or the area that, for example, the Chakradhara tigress. The Chakradhara tigress is the meadow that was her home, or the Sidh Baba tigress is the area that she ruled. So the Rajbehra tigress, the famous dynasty, series tigress, is after the meadows that she is used. Well, there are other tigresses. For example, Blue Eyes was a transient male which came into Bandhavgarh and was named because his eyes were blue. And, the guys used to call him Hrithik Roshan. So the names, it depends. Sometimes, there are markings. For example, Machli. Machli was named Machli because there is a fish symbol right up her, I think, left eyelid. So, various things contribute. Charger was named Charger because he used to charge vehicles. So
various resources.
So various resources, but it's done by, mostly the guides and, the forest officials who are there. Over time, they get used to calling this particular tigress by a particular name. And that's how it happens. There's no fixed rule.
Okay. Are there any measures adopted for treatment of tigers facing illnesses? This is from Smita, and I think Smita is asking this with reference to that these tigers are in the reserve, and what are the measures, if at all, if any, for the treatment of their illnesses?
Yes. Since they are endangered, we need to protect every tiger. So there is a veterinary, a department, hospital, whatever you call it, to treat these tigresses. Not only to treat these tigresses or tigers, but also sometimes, to aid them. For example, Machli, when she reached in Ranthambore, when she reached a ripe old age and couldn't hunt, and the forest department used to, pick up dead meat, as in, when the deer and all were dead, they put it onto a truck and leave it in Machli's area. So they are well looked after. B2, for example, just before he died, Charger, just before he died, actually received treatment. So yes, there is medical attention that is given to tigers and tigresses.
Wonderful. Would you recommend that these natural reserves for tigers, they become tourist hotspots? Would you recommend that? I mean, I know we visit these reserves, but how much
Yeah.
are we interfering with their lives?
Shwanya, that's an interesting question, because I tend to want to say yes, because I want people to see these magnificent animals. But we Indians, and pardon me for saying so, are not very good tourists wherever we go. And that includes national parks. You will see a contrast. I mean, even in a place like Bandhavgarh, you'll see the vehicles with foreign tourists, and you'll see the vehicles with us in them. The foreign tourists are dead silent. There is not a murmur when a tiger is on view. But you should see the excitement and the noise that the Indian tourists create. Now we need to learn the etiquette of going into these national parks. So I want to promote tiger tourism, because I believe tiger tourism helps in conservation. It allows us to count and keep track of them so that nothing untoward happens to them. It's a great boon to the forest department. I want it to happen, but we need to be responsible for it and behave properly. I remember one fellow lighting up a BD in the national park.
Oh my God.
I remember one woman, I mean, B2 and Chakradhara were meeting a few meters away from us, and this woman gets off her car and starts walking to another vehicle. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, you can't do things like that. So we need to educate our people, I think, in visiting places. So, I mean, and this is not just true for national parks. This is true worldwide, if you ask me.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, this question was from Iti Abraham. There's a question
This
from
classmate of mine.
okay. There's a question from Kakon Mojumdar, and she's asking that have these corridors shut down because of the human settlements, or is it more of a bureaucratic step?
Mining, Kakun, and Iti, if that was Iti's question as well. It's these mining rights which are causing a lot of difficulty. I mean, and not so much human settlement. Human settlement is an issue in places like Sundarbans. That's an issue. There's no mining in Sundarban. So human settlement is an issue as far as Sundarban is concerned. But not so much, say, in Bandhavgarh or the corridors that connect Bandhavgarh, the MP parks. There it's mining, and some of them are human settlement because minings automatically require people close to them and things like that. So it's, I would blame industrialization if I have a better thing to say.
Okay. See, Project Tiger, as far as I recall, I think it was started in 1970s, early 70s by Mrs. Gandhi. Yeah. So do you think this entire movement of 1428 Tigers Left and Project Tigers, it's actually gathered steam, or is it just one of those gimmicks that we get to see and hear? I mean, what is the count now? Any idea?
Well, the count now, yeah, I have an idea. Of course, I have an idea. I mean,
this is also Vikram's question, by the way.
Okay. Oh, another classmate of mine. How nice to see them here. India has about 2,900 tigers. Roughly, it's 2,900 and something. Okay. The world population of tigers is 3,900. So that roughly makes it about 70% of the tiger population in the world. Okay. What was the other part of the question?
I mean, so the projects are helping.
Oh, on Project Tiger.
Yeah.
Mrs. Gandhi was really a visionary. I mean, and as far as tigers are concerned, and she set up Tiger. As far as the current numbers are concerned, no, I'm not happy. I'm not at all happy because when Mrs. Gandhi, I think, set up or started, or Pradeep Shankala started pushing her to actually set up Project Tiger, the numbers then were about 3,200. So we took it down so much that now we start celebrating when, you know, it goes up to 1,400, 1,600, and media goes gaga about it. But honestly, if you ask me, there's nothing to go gaga about it until we reach the 3,200 number. And cross it. I mean, as I said, I mean, if we in India can save the tiger, the job is done. I mean, and we can. We have the resources, we have the availability. Even the shrinkage of, I was talking about the shrinkage of land space, even if that happens, we still have enough space. We still have enough space. You know, we can still take in roughly a population of about 10,000 tigers still in the country.
Okay, we have some technical questions like how is a tiger census generally undertaken? That's one. Let me just club it together for you. The second is, could you please explain the concept of a core zone and a buffer zone?
I will. Okay, let's take the first question first. That's how a tiger number is counted. Previously, tiger numbers used to be counted through the pug mark method. Okay, so I mean, you know, pug marks would be identified, put in casts, and then numbers. But we've gone into technology today. So what do? We identify a tiger zone, or what I mean, most of the forest officials do and NTCA does, is they identify where the tigers live and they put up camera traps, right? And the camera trap is one on the left tree, one on the right tree, so that as the tiger passes through, we get the left side view of the tiger and the right side view of the tiger. Okay. With that, we are able to establish the tiger stripe patterns, and each tiger has a unique stripe pattern. So individual tigers can now be counted. And we are doing this in all our national parks. I saw a question coming in, are our census numbers correct?
Correct.
I would go by saying that with this technology and with diligence that, you know, is being held in counting these numbers, I think our tiger numbers are quite accurate. That is there. There was a second part to the question.
Yeah, it was like, one was how is the census done and whether it is accurate and what is the role of technology. I think you have
no, our tiger numbers, and especially with this technology, I mean, which is now being used right across. And remember, the tiger census is one of the biggest wildlife census that now take place in the world. I think, if I'm not mistaken, when it was first done or when it was last done, it entered the Guinness Book of World Records as, you know, one of the largest censuses done for animals across the world. Because, you know, you look at the length and breadth, starting from Ranthambore to Namdapha, and, you know, starting from the Sanjay Gandhi National Park, I mean, up to the jungles in the south in, you know, Kerala. You know, we are covering them with these camera traps, so we more or less have a feel on the correct numbers.
What about using drones? That was also a question. Do we use something as modern? But I think the forest canopy would be a hindrance.
Yeah, the forest canopy would be an issue. Drones would be great in Africa because you have large savanna grasslands. In India, the drones could, you know, just start bumping into our thick forest cover. I mean, you know, I think one of the most difficult things is shooting in our wild because, you know, you turn the corner and, you know, suddenly the light, the whole lighting system changes. I mean, from dark, you move to bright, and from bright, you move to dark. And especially when you're shooting, you know, moving tigers, I mean, it's quite difficult. It takes a little bit of skill to do that.
That reminds me, Sandy, could you go back to your second slide and reveal where that tiger was hidden?
I mean, let me do that. Oops. Okay, there is a tiger here. All of you, if you look very carefully, you'll find the tiger here. Got it? I don't know how
Yeah.
many of you actually got it, but I mean, and as I said, I mean, it's, you know, they are masterful at this disguise. They are just amazing.
Right. Well, I haven't followed protocol and listed my question, but taking the liberty of asking you one straight on, which is,
And
you know,
1 minute, Shwani, just.
Yep.
Let me just stop this slide share. Thanks.
Yeah. So we have three tiger reserves in the east. One is
there was a question about core area and
core area and the buffer zone. Yeah, could you just explain that?
The core area is it is identified by the authorities or the park authorities there. I think 75% of the core area is not open to tourism. So what we actually get to see is 25% of the core area. The core area is very well protected. People are not allowed inside, and only 25%, I might get the percentage a little this side, that side, are not allowed into the core areas of the park. The buffer area, you are allowed, and the core areas, for example, in Bandhavgarh, we have a season, right? Which is, I mean, between June 30th to October 1st or 15th, depending on the state of the monsoons, the park is shut. However, the buffer area is still open, right? So the buffer area actually supports the core area, and it's important because the buffer area development is also important, because with the numbers increasing, you do expect these tigers to move into that particular area. We saw Sid Baba, we saw Shardul actually going and staying in the buffer area, developing his strength and coming back to, you know, knock his mother's killer. So it's an important area. I mean, so, you know, that's the difference between the buffer area and the core area. The core area, the bulk of it, we actually don't see. I mean, but it's healthy. It's, you know, it keeps, because I think tigers also, like us humans, need some amount of space.
So that is more of a concentration zone.
Yeah, it is a concentration zone. Yes.
Okay. Okay, now let me ask my question, which was, you know, I had read somewhere that 3 reserves in the eastern part of the country, one being Palamau in Jharkhand, one being Dampa in Mizoram, and our very own Baksa in North Bengal. We don't have any tigers left there. Is it true?
Yeah.
So could we, I mean, I do not know whether it is scientifically possible. Is it possible to reintroduce a particular gene pool into these reserves?
Yes, it's possible. Yes, I think they're working on it. I mean, in fact, a few days ago, I was reading about some translocation happening into Baksa. But Baksa, remember one thing, Baksa is a peculiar thing. Across the border in Bhutan, there are a number of tigers. Okay, so I do see, you know, some of these tigers actually coming in to Baksa. So, Baksa, no tigers is what I firmly believe. I mean, because the bulk of the tigers are on the other side of the park. And I mean, live in Bhutan, possibly because, you know, there's not too much of interference on that side of the park. But to answer the second part of your question, yes, translocation can be done. But I don't want, or none of us actually want the Satkosia incident happening.
Yeah.
We really need to do our homework before these translocations are done.
Oh, we look forward to that in a peaceful and a scientific manner. Many of us have now put BTR into our bucket list, and some are even asking for suggestions like, Sandy, which is the best place to stay in BTR. So next time you're not only coming in as a tiger lover, but almost like a destination guide for us, Sandy.
Yeah, no issues. I can let you know there are a number of nice resorts. We stay in one particular resort, which is owned, was actually set up by the first Project Tiger director. That's Pradeep Shankala. So it's called Bandhavgarh Tiger Lodge. It's just next to the park. In fact, we can hear at night, you can hear tigers roar.
Wow.
from this place. Ever since 2005, every visit we've stayed there, and all I need to do is actually just give them a phone call saying that I'm coming. It's like a second home as far as I'm concerned. But there are other lodges, nice lodges, which have now come up in Bandhavgarh. You will need transport. You'll need to know how to book your safaris, because gone are the days of you just land up in Bandhavgarh and get into a safari, because nowadays safaris are booked months in advance. So you really need to plan a trip to Bandhavgarh now. And, it's gone are the days when you landed up and just drove into the park.
Well, thank you, Sandy, for this captivating
Thanks so much.
evening. And we really understand your plight, not having gone back to Bandhavgarh for 2 years. You're missing the tigers, and the tigers are missing you. Hope you go back to Bandhavgarh and come back with more stories for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Could I request? There is one last question. Please don't go. Corbett National Park has how many tigers? Sanjay Banerjee.
Corbett, I think, has the maximum number of tigers. If I were to go national park wise, I think Corbett has the maximum number of tigers. But remember, Corbett is a huge national park.
Yeah.
So I think, if I'm not mistaken, if memory serves me right, it has over about 180 odd tigers. But it is the park which has the maximum number of tigers.
Okay. Okay. Right. Over to you, Adip, for your concluding bit. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Shani. Thanks.
Yeah, before that, Kanyakumari, we did not get your question. Romit, is there any way that she can be unmuted? Romit?
We can hear you.
Yeah. No. Kanyakumari Datta had put her hands up. She had a question. She did not key in her question. Is there any way that she can answer the question to Sandeep Chaudhary? Is she still there, Kanyakumari Datta? I just saw. After this session, there will be a lot of persons calling up for your number to guide them to stay there. Okay, if she had put up a hand by mistake and I don't see her, no, she's still there. But she's muted. Romit, just check Kanyakumari.
She can unmute and ask the question.
Yeah, now I can speak. Thank you so much for a lovely talk. Your last picture was so nice. The tiger drinking water from the pond. But I have a question. I have seen tiger cubs while doing Kaziranga safari, but in early 70s when I was very little, perched on an elephant. But recently in 2011, Ranthambore, 2017, Pench, 2-3, trips to the forest, we couldn't see a single tiger. So Ranthambore, if I go, can I see tigers?
Mr. Chaudhary, you need to unmute yourself.
Sorry. I cannot guarantee tiger sighting, because tigers come by chance. I mean, and it's your luck. For example, let me put it to you this way. I've made about 16 to 18 trips to Sundarban, and I'm still not seen a tiger in Sundarbans, right? Yet, I mean, I have friends who made just one trip to Sundarban and have seen 2 tigers. Right? So I mean, my advice is try Tadoba, try Ranthambore, try Bandhavgarh.
Okay.
These are the 3 best places in my view. And you need to give yourself a little bit of time, I think, something between 4 to 6 safaris is the minimum, because you could see it in the first one and then say, oh, wow, now I've got 3 or 4 more safaris to go. But you never know
Yeah.
how many tigers. Let me give you a very personal thing. It took us 108 safaris before we saw a first tiger, right? And we traveled south of India, north of India, east of India. It took us 108. And then on one day, I think I still remember the date, 25th May, 2005, in Bandhavgarh, and that's where the love affair really began. We saw 11 tigers on one day, separate tigers, 11 of them on one day. Okay, so ma'am, it's a chance that you will have to take.
Yeah, and because you are such a tiger lover, we grew up hearing the story from my father. One of our grandfathers, distant, one of his grandfathers was a forest ranger, and two cubs he got to his home because they lost their mother. And dad and other siblings, they used to go and visit that home in Park Circus here, and they saw those two cubs. And one day the auntie, was cutting vegetables, and some drops of blood came out, and they licked the blood, and immediately the forest ranger returned those cubs back
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
the jungle.
you need to
So
do that. They
yeah,
shouldn't taste human blood. No, that's dangerous. We are talking about man-eaters out here now. I mean,
yeah.
so, thank
Thank
you
you
so much.
so much.
Thank you, Kanya.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for tonight's session. First of all, the audience who joined us, and a lot of you asked questions, and most of you are there till the end. Uh, I, First of all, thank you to Shondeep Chaudhary for agreeing to enthrall us on World Environment Day. That was the main purpose, as to what we could do to celebrate today, tonight, and the special date on the calendar. And of course, the systems team of Indrajit, Devashish, and Piali from library, and
Oh, thanks, Indrajit, Piali, I mean, Romit. Thank you so much, Ben.
and Dr. Romit Meet surprised us that he's been able to tweak his schedule and join us tonight. And thank you so much. And he, it was quite apt that we had someone asking you the questions whose father was last Principal Secretary Forest and Environment. And she was so interested when the topic came up and asked, can I do this one? I said, please go ahead. And the questions and I think it was something from her heart, and that was heartening to note. And with this, we might be troubling you for contacts when we actually make it, and all of us who when we
Yeah, it shouldn't be a problem. It shouldn't be a problem at all.
so it was great to see Rajada join and Mr. Shotinath Posh, Tarun Sarkar, all of you. I mean, Kanyakumari, I mean, something. This is an interest area that I wasn't aware that you have an interest in this area as well. Yeah, it was very nice, and sorry for that. That scribbling thing, which was something that
No, no.
never was in a technical session.
It was
Thank
really weird.
you, Romit, of figuring it out and solving it for us.
Thanks, Romit. Thanks a lot.
Price and content limit. Do we stop you? Do we stop you? Do we stop you? But then we went ahead and did that because those lovely photographs. And if anybody wants to, have a look at one of those photographs, you can always touch base with Shondeep or let us know if there's anything we can do about that. Again, once more, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, Shondeep.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much.
Next weekend, same time, 6:30. Tune in. We'll have a session of something typical of our times. That's online education. Sign of our times. What is this pandemic doing to us in terms of education and online education? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good night. Have a nice week. Host, you can copy the questions and stop the recording. Thanks.